we've talked in the past about, we did the DM special episodes about, our favorites and our least favorites. We talked about all the things that have gone well. Oh, my favorite time that this ever happened was this. My favorite instance of campaign instance that I've witnessed in my own personal life was this. I really like this kind of encounter, this kind of monster, this. We don't talk about our own failures as DMs ever. And I figure, we're like a bunch of episodes in now. Is there a thing that you guys really look back on and go, shit, that was the thing I screwed up on?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a lot.
Just from DM point, Dan, not
no.
just as a person.
You do this for as long as I've been doing it, you make mistakes in any gamut that this thing covers. So, yeah. No, I've definitely made a few.
You have one? You go. I got to think about it for a second.
So
that sounded really arrogant. No, I just meant
you've only been doing this for 4 years.
I want to think of a good one,
yeah.
Not just there was that one time I got a stat wrong. That's not interesting.
So for the one thing I've done wrong as a player, a facilitator of a game is I think I mentioned this in like the party politics episode once. I made a personal conflict at the table worse. Instead of making it better, with every intention to try to make it better, but I just exponentially made it worse and blew it up.
Yeah, okay.
But in terms of
DMing,
the
game itself.
I had a 4-session arc in one campaign that I was doing that involved a lot of like mind flayers and all these other little there was Gith Yankee and Gith involved and all these other things, and then at the end of the story arc, the entire party woke up in a cabin, and anything that they had gained was lost, and anything else like that. So there was a month worth of sessions, including experience. There was a month worth of sessions that were so you guys wake up in a cabin because I ran out of ideas and I had no idea how to finish the story.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah. I did the whole. You wake up, it was all a dream. Don't ever do that unless you got like an out plan. And there's still some sort of reward to your players because I don't think I ran another session in that campaign. That blew up that campaign. So
yeah, I pulled you guys were in the dreamscape the whole time with the undead pirate ship. And when I'm like, oh, and you wake up and you're tied to the thing, and the whole thing was this like you were there, but you also only brought magic items back. All the mundane stuff is gone, and a lot of it's open to interpretation. And there were a couple of players at the table that went, oh, all right. So
yeah. It's always bad to do that. You wake up.
I would start off and say, look, guys, we're going to do a dream sequence first, and it's going to be like metaphors and prophecies. Sure, fine.
Yeah,
but hitting that
the open. Yeah, because I think it's never as exciting as you think it's going to be afterwards. It's never like a big reveal, like original.
Well, speaking of big reveals, my biggest thing that I've screwed up. Was, and you guys were both there for this. I had a couple of players that were leaving, and I was bridging the gap between 2 new players and 2 players that were leaving and 2 players that were going to stay, and I railroaded that end scene. I had so many points to hit. We just run out of time because they were moving away to another country, and I had so many points that I railroaded that final session so badly that I literally froze all of the characters and took away 100% of their agency and ran a freaking cutscene for 40 minutes where the only people that could move were the people that were leaving. But no matter what they did, they were doomed anyway. Yeah. Right? And it was like cliffhanger. Like
my biggest bone to pick about that entire experience was nothing that you did. It was what the person to my left did. Right before you took away all of our agency.
I can't remember where I was sitting.
Right? No. It was you.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, you're to my left now. Oh. Right before we entered that last room, we fought a dragon. And my character is so hell-bent on fighting dragons and dragonkind. He has a sword that absorbs dragon souls and uses them as breath weapons as long as I get the killing blow. And here comes the champion fighter who crits on 19s and has 15 attacks in a round. And he comes over and he just decimates this dragon after I just drop a massive bomb of smites and stuff on it. And it completely, like, the one thing, it was the first dragon I think we'd ever played against in that campaign. It was just everything I was looking forward to. I was so excited. Finally I get to absorb a dragon soul, and here comes Titus.
Well,
and stole my thunder.
And he's totally unapologetic about it to this
What am I
day.
going to say? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll change my life to make you happy.
Yes, Terry, that's exactly what I want.
Write this down. Don't choose magic items that rely on other people to do certain things.
It wasn't. It was relying on me doing certain things.
Well,
Terry, do you have a time that you've ever screwed up?
I brought out the deck of many things.
Terry wins. Terry wins.
Assuming that the other players at the table would use it responsibly as I might, and then when the one player was like, I found the deck, I was like, oh, you're one of those. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
that
it's an exciting item, right? There's lots of different things. It's like, oh my god, because it's like half good, half bad. We can do all this different stuff. It can create like little side quests, and but obviously you've got to use it responsibly and choose when you use it. And just other people don't think like us.
we should do an episode on deck of many things.
You should.
Oh, we really
and
should,
adjusting
yeah.
it and changing cards and not being overpowered and all
Yeah,
that sort of stuff.
how to build a campaign around it. What to do when it goes horribly, horribly wrong.
Well,
because there are like 5 cards in it that are just like, and the campaign's done. Like you've either wished your way through it, or everyone's dead, or something, right?
Well, you also don't like wishes just by nature.
I don't like wishes, but there's a time and a place to use them. I've got some. Okay, look, we'll do a future episode. I could wax poetic about.
I like
this.
the idea of the deck of many things being almost like the Jumanji board game. Like you can hear the jungle drums, like if you're close to it or something.
Yeah, that's cool.
Very
Like, it's one of those iconic magic items that you see in every single game. Another iconic thing you see in every single game is what we're talking about today, gentlemen, and that is the first of our kind of monster specials. We're looking at the good old-fashioned, the Orcs.
Oh, wow.
So after we listen to the intro music, we'll really get into this.
Welcome to It's a Mimic with your DMs, Adam, Dan, and Terry.
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast. I am Dan. Across the table from me is Adam.
Hello.
And to my left, as earlier mentioned, is Terry.
Hello.
So yeah, as I said, we're going through our first of our mob monster mentalities. These are going to be a series of episodes that are, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, they're a overview, a survey of the more iconic Horde monsters that you see on the table.
Yeah, we sat down to go over which monsters we're going to take a look at first, because let's be honest, everybody wants to talk about the monsters. Right?
Oh yeah,
there's an entire book or 6 dedicated just to monsters.
There's one for players, one for DMs, and then
one for monsters,
and then 6 for monsters.
Yeah, but the thing about a lot of the monsters is you don't get to see a beholder or an ancient dragon or a lich, because most campaigns don't get past about 8th level. So who do you see? You see orcs, goblins, skeletons, zombies,
Right.
And or maybe they've got a little bit of a twist to them. You got a gnoll or a bullywug or a kobold. Let's hit these things that move in packs.
Yep.
Where your level 2 encounter is just 6 of these level 1/2 creatures.
I'm excited about this one actually. The mobs, the hordes, and how to make them more
And
interesting.
they're all so different from each other too. Like there is so much flavor to each one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And when you get into them, like you can tell when you flip open the book that an orc gets 4 pages, but an ooze gets a half a page.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're all so much more interesting because they come with societies and civilizations. Half of them are player races too, because of Volos, which we'll touch in future episodes as well. But so I don't know. I just thought this would be a really good way for people, especially new DMs new players who haven't seen these things before.
Well, and the thing about orcs specifically, because that's what we're going to hit first, is they're such that iconic. Like anyone who is really testing the waters of this hobby for the first time, they want to fight an orc and a dragon. Those are like the 2 things that always come up.
They're coming from Tolkien, right?
Right,
So,
they're coming from Tolkien, so they want to see what those are like. So I want to cover orcs, and we'll go for it. So before we do that, you mentioned that they got a culture and a society all of their own. So let's go over that real quick. Orcs in base Forgotten Realms 5e, base Dungeons and Dragons as it sits right now, are a creation of the god Grumsh. That is with 2 U's and no vowels at the end. It's hard to pronounce, but he's Old One Eye himself, the god, the overview god of all orcs.
He's your one-eyed monster.
He's your one-eyed monster. Yeah.
I just did a laugh.
Yeah, no,
I wasn't just telling the world that I just laughed. Obviously, you heard that. I meant I did a silent laugh to myself. And I didn't want to touch the joke, and you did.
I will touch the one-eyed monster all day, let me tell you.
You do, and we know. So, the orcs were created specifically to counter up... Trying to do a thing.
All right, yes, I'm sorry.
I can't do it.
And that is the sound of the podcast crashing to a halt.
Back on the
orc culture and orcs were created as a force to fight against all of these slights that Grumsh felt he had against the other gods. When there's a history in the back that and you can find this in Volos, when the gods were kind of picking their areas, they were like, okay, so dwarves, who do you want? They're like, we want the mountains. And elves, who do you want? Well, we get the forests. The orc god went, what do I get? Nothing? Well, screw you guys.
No, it wasn't even that. He just showed up late to the party.
Yeah.
He was just the last one chosen on the team, right? So he showed up and he's just like, oh, okay, I'll take the mountains. Like, not tough. I'll take the forest. Nope, you can't. Plains, not taken, man. And he just went one after another one. You know what? Fine. And then he just like lost his mind.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And he created orcs to fight in the mountains and fight in the forests against the elves and fight in the plains against man, and went through all of this. And that's where you get your iconic orcs. They are a roving tribesman analog to a sense. They have a very religious-based culture. Very... superstitious. I almost want to say like there's a lot of Native American or African tribalism feel to orcs, at least culture-wise. They are the go-to when you have a big bad who needs a medium-sized foot soldier. They're the go-to. Like you either have orcs or you have hobgoblins or you have gnolls, right? So they despise and have deep ancestral hatred for anything dwarf, human, or elf, specifically elves, if there is a choice, because the elf god Corlon Larethian, I think is what his name is, is the one who made Grumsh 2-eye into Grumsh 1-eye.
And shot him in the face.
With an arrow.
Really?
Yeah, and that's how Grumsh lost his eye.
Huh.
So there's a lot of hatred there. So, gentlemen, we know a very brief history about the orcs. We know why they're around. I got a question. Why do you use orcs in your campaign? Let's grab our dice. Let's roll for initiative.
Let's go.
Oh, I used the little one and it bounced right out. Come on, mini dice.
Still did pretty good. You still won. I got 3.
No, Dan got a 15.
Oh, I look like a 5 to me.
I ended up with an 8.
So as is with history in this podcast, Terry goes last.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
track them stats.
He who DMs goes first.
Yeah. So I use orcs in every single one of my campaigns, not just because half orcs are my favorite race, although pretty much because half orcs are my favorite race. Orcs they're just that go-to. Like I feel this comfort with them as kind of the big bad foot soldier. They've got a ton of flavor in them themselves that you could really exploit with their kind of out of uncivilized tribalism and one not of their own. They play a lot like the orcs you see in like World of Warcraft or anything else, where they're living in mud huts in the middle of the field somewhere, and then in a week they might not be in that same spot. They might pick up and move and go somewhere else. Very few orcs have a solid base. So with their aggressive style, they actually have a mechanic in them called aggressive, where they get to use a bonus action to move their movement.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. It's basically dash, but dash is a bonus action, but all orcs get this. I like to use them because they're big, they're dumb, they're angry, they are fierce, and they are get in your face kind of threats that are very pressing to a party. Like and very, they lack subtlety in every way, shape, or form. They lack subtlety, and I for a random foot soldier, I climb and I gravitate towards that. Like they seem to be like, if I was a big evil guy, I'd want all of those heavy minions to do my heavy lifting while I work on my maniacal plan.
Yeah, but what kind of bad guy uses orcs? Because, just hold on, let me jump in. When you get a demon lord, he's going to use demons as foot soldiers. A devil's going to use devils, right? No matter what you do, your necromancer's going to use undeads. Who's your big, nasty, like, overarching villain that relies on orcs as foot soldiers, as opposed to some of these other mobs and races out there? Like, who do you lean on then as your...
I would go with, like, the... either a orc themselves. There is an orc in the lore called King Obold Many Arrow.
Yep.
He is an orc himself who is chosen by Groomsh to kind of unite a bunch of different orc clans and orc bands together to fight against the dwarves and everything. And he's a single intelligent orc who kind of bands everyone together. So I would use that character. I would use the...
What tier does he go through? Like,
what tier is Obold? Oh, they're low tier. They are definitely low tier.
Yeah, but what tier is he? Is he the end of tier 1? Well, are you using him still up and through tier 2?
I'm using him probably the intro to tier 3 even, is when I'd be using him. Like, he's going to be like that last melee threat you have before you start dealing with, big spellcasters, planar problems. Yeah. Okay. He's that guy, and he's the guy that's smart enough to have a bunch of lieutenants. So like, there's going to be orcs below him that you're going to fight in your lower tiers.
Yeah.
That are lieutenants or captains or shamans or whatever it is. That way, Adam, you got next.
I'm going to hold my action because I've got a whole bunch of shit that I want to talk about, and but I have a feeling like I'm just going to bowl over whatever Terry's got prepped. So I'll mop up the minions at the end. Yeah.
Mop up. Okay. I think the reason I like to use orcs in my campaign, I talked to you guys a lot about how I like to do more exploration and storytelling and things, and I feel like orcs, and this is with players that have played for a long time, forget how scary a 6'4" gray-green mountain that rides character who looks like a wild boar is. Especially when there's 50 of them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, at lower levels it just becomes, and an orc appears. Next. An orc appears? So I like to use them because I like to go much more into storytelling, and when it comes to exploration and things, using them for things like children's stories. Why are the parents in the D&D world not telling their kids that if they don't behave, the orcs will come and snatch them from the village and ride off into the mountains with them? They'll never be seen again.
Because those parents have only gotten to page 23 of the monster manual, and they found enough scary shit.
And they found enough scary shit. Why are they not more mythical, as in that people who are not really adventurers or warriors in any way don't really come across orcs that much? They stay away, right?
You're not going to see them in a metropolis, right? Like, they're on the outskirts of civilization.
Exactly. You may go your whole life without ever seeing an orc. Or the orc may be the end of your life.
They're a frontier race, right?
It's like in Game of Thrones. For how many seasons were they sitting there going, the White Walkers are coming, and it's like, no, they're not. That's a myth, exactly. Right when they're down in King's Landing.
Exactly, and that can be roaming hordes of orcs, could be that type of effect. So I like to use them more for exploration, storytelling, and in making them scary, making them mythical, kind of folklore, and that in the story, if you see an orc, it should be amazing. If you've never seen one before, you may have a lot of different questions about them. You may be
what is that big ass goblin?
Yeah, what is that goblin on steroids? Yeah. So I like to use them more for exploration and storytelling as opposed to tactically as well. Yeah. But for just fleshing out your campaign a little bit more.
Yeah.
All right, I got a bunch of answers about why I like orcs, but one of the things that you touch on really quickly is they're simple foot soldiers and you can use them. And I've used them in the past where it's just, I need meat to throw at the party, and it just needs to be a bit of a grind. Not super hard. I want them to win. I want them to fight 8 things.
Yeah.
Right? And orcs are easy because kobolds are traps and goblins are sneaky, but orcs
are going to run up and hit you. And then when one falls over, the next one's going to run up and hit you.
No, but they'll retreat. The gnolls are the bloodthirsty ones that will fight to the last man. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I really like about orcs is that they treat different things differently, which you don't get with a lot of the other mobs and outsiders and outsider, but orcs are inherently racist. And it's right out of the source material here. They hate elves. One of the things that they'll do is they'll run into a village, and they will often leave the village alive. They'll kill anybody that's strong enough to oppose them, but then they'll leave it. All the elderly and the sickly and the women and children will be left behind so that they can come back and raid it again later.
Yeah.
Except elves. With elves, it is down to the last child. They will murder anything that breathes. And then when it comes to dwarves, they don't even care about killing dwarves. They want their homestead. They want to live in the caves and the caverns, and this is a good option for us to move in for a while and make a stronghold.
Yeah.
Because they have different tactics, they're also a lot of fun because they're intelligent enough to leave. They're always moving, they're nomadic, but they're intelligent enough to leave signs, and they're not quite literate, right? So it is like left here, right? Or maybe just a giant scrawled arrow. They have this basic symbolism and symbology that they actually use, and it's neat because these are the early puzzles that you can drop for your new players that haven't played before, they don't know how to decipher the magical script on the wall. They need to be able to track, right? And they're getting that basic idea out of the way, so they're really good for that early level stuff. When you get into an orc encampment, it gets a lot deeper into it because you have Orcs that hold back and protect the area. We'll get into all that stuff later, maybe even another episode, but there's a different culture, but I love how superstitious they are.
Yeah.
There's even a part in Volos, it's on page 87. I just happen to have it directly in front of me, where it lists, it's not like a chart, it's just a bunch of bullet points, where it lists a bunch of sample superstitions, and it's a ton of fun. Stuff like gnome bones can ward off diseases if they are worn.
That is true.
Right? Now you're going to have them raid a gnomish village because their chieftain is sick. Yeah. You're not getting that out of goblins or kobolds or gnolls, right? There's no bullywugs that are doing that. So this is interesting to me because they've got bizarre motivations behind their actions. Yeah. And the other thing that I absolutely love about them, which makes them just so damn terrifying, is how prolific they are.
They are one of the most they're one of the most prolific races in the book, right? It's like humans and orcs
and dragons. Those are the three things that'll just bang whatever moves, right? And just breed and breed and breed, which is why you have so many half orcs, right? But the thing that I really like about their large numbers is that they don't turn into a horde very often because the landscape can't support them. Right. If there's 1,000 orcs, where are they getting the food for that? So normally they even fight each other. Yeah. And that's when you start
There's a lot of infighting in orc tribes.
Yeah, you get a lot of cool tribal stuff where you can be traveling across the plains and you get stuck with, the red hand to the left and the white eye tribe to the right. And what do you do? Yep. Like which area do you go into? What band do you try to convince to let you through? Because sometimes they will just let you. If you have one character who has an eye patch, you may be able to get through this okay. Yeah. Right? He may be able to talk his way through it because there are different kinds of orcs. There's lots of different kinds of orcs. And some of them are smart enough to be reasoned with. Within reason.
Right. The other thing is and we mentioned this before, they're a very shamanistic race. They're very not only superstitious, but spiritual as well.
Yeah, they have their gods.
They have their gods, which will kind of define what their groups are to a certain extent. Like some groups will worship one god and other groups will worship another god, and those two gods don't like each other, so they'll fight. Or they're rivals, so
which is very different from all of the other mobs because kobolds, they just worship dragons.
Yeah.
Right? Goblins have two gods left of their entire pantheon because the rest were all murdered.
By one of them, right?
Rightly so.
Yeah.
The gnolls only have the one. Right? I don't even know if bullywugs have gods. They probably do.
Pond scum?
Pond scum?
Yeah, they just worship pond scum.
That's about right.
Yeah.
But there's a legit pantheon.
You talking about like Oilers fans right now, or that's a hockey joke? That's a hockey joke.
Just because I'm wearing an Oilers jersey.
For everybody not in Canada, that was a hockey joke.
So I just think that there's so much flavor to what an orc is and how they move and the way that they interact with each other. So I could keep talking, but I get into specifics about different kinds of orcs, and I think we're going to save that for another episode.
Yeah, we're going to put that on another episode. So what I want to do now is we're just going to do a quick little commercial, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about the strategy of them.
cool would it be to hear your company name on this podcast? Pretty stinking cool. It's a Mimic is ready to take our show to the next level. We want to partner with other awesome businesses to share your brand with our listeners. Please email us at info@itsamimic.com for advertising information.
And we're back. So, for our second topic of this, I really want to cover specifics of combat and strategy with orcs. Not necessarily the mechanical aspects of it, but more the flavor aspect of it. The what are orcs going to do on a battlefield? So, you mentioned earlier that there's orcs, there's half-orcs, there's orogs. How do those are the three kind of bland, normal orcs. There's others in Volos that are more god-specific, and like we said, we're going to talk about those in a later episode, but kind of how do those three fit into your average orc raiding party? And for DMs, how to use orcs, and for players, how to push against orcs. So, gentlemen...
That's a lot that we're covering. Okay.
That's a lot that you're covering. What, in your opinion, makes orcs so fierce, and how to use them in your games? Roll the dice.
Okay.
Go, little dice, go. I got a 15. Oh, little dice goes first. Pass me the monster manual.
I will never win.
So you said that there were orcs and orogs. And there was another one.
Half-orcs.
Half-orcs. I'm going to leave the half-orcs to you. And I know, Terry, you probably got a solid handle on the orcs. So I'm going to just cover orogs for a second.
Okay.
I love orogs because they are bigger and meaner and tougher than the average orc.
What is an orog?
An orog is a bigger, meaner, and tougher orc.
Do you know the heritage of them? Where they come from?
Yeah, they're based on one of the gods, Luthic. Luthic is the only female god, and she's of the orcs, and she's all about protecting the horde, and she's the one that actually oversees the tribe itself, while everyone else out on a raiding party who stays behind.
So is there a racial difference between an orog and an orc, or is it more of a status, or is it a position?
Orog is they're a little bit smarter. They have average intelligence. They can honestly communicate, but they're tough. They're beefy. It's the difference between an AC 13 and an AC 18. It's the difference between 15 hit points for an orc and 42 for an orog.
Jeez.
Ooh.
These guys are going to be heavy hitters. They protect the tribe, and they will kill indiscriminately if anything comes nearby, right? And so
metal.
Do they hold a higher status within the tribe then? Are they...
well, I mean, you've got
Or just to the bouncers that's like, oh, you're an elf, I'm going to snap your neck, but all you other orcs can get in.
It's... Like, they might command a warband, but not, you have your war chief.
Yeah.
Right? You've got your eye of I call it Grumsh.
Like, they're still standing watch. They're not above that. That's
That's
their job, yeah.
But if you get 3 or 4 of these, they're going to wade in, and they're gonna mess up a party pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I usually save an Orog as being the big lieutenant amongst the group. Maybe not the chief, but a lieutenant who is overseeing the guards. If you run a decoy and have your mounts go by in the distance and kick up dust, and now the entire encampment rides out to take out whoever those travelers are, so that you can sneak in and rescue a half-orc slave. Mm-hmm. Let's say that's your area, or that's your storyline. There are 3 orogs and 12 orcs left behind, and then children, right, or the elderly. So it's the difference between an orc is a CR half.
Yeah.
And an Orog is a CR2. So they're considered 4 times as difficult to kill as your average orc.
Oh, geez.
And I like them because they add a sense of community where there's very little to the orcs outside of their religion. So I don't see them as being fierce. I see them as being... I think it even says somewhere in the text that they're detached. They're detached killers. They are there to just wipe you out and move on. They're not raging like an orc does. There's no battle cry. This is work.
Yeah.
You got to open there. They still have the aggressive thing, though, right?
They still have aggressive. Yep. But it's pretty standard still. They've got their +6 to hit, their great axe, their javelin, They're pretty normal. The other thing, though, is that they've got some basic survival skills.
Yep.
And their intimidation factor is through the roof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they are the bigger, meaner orcs. So
yeah. But they're not the
fury.
Well, there are so many of the bigger, meaner orcs that are based on a god that they worship specifically, and these ones aren't. They just seem to be better orcs.
Yeah.
Right? They're almost more pure, I would say, that other orcs will be able to listen to them, because they are probably. I would run it so that they're closer to what Grumsh has to, or the image of Grumsh than an average orc is. Right, because they are bigger and they're tougher and they're smarter.
Well, and if you think about it, orcs are one of the most, like we mentioned, are one of the most prolific races. So the bloodline would have got muddied a bit. So these Orogs are more of that pure.
Well, anytime that an orc breeds, it either becomes a half orc or an orc, and not a half orc, half dwarf, or a half orc, half gnome, or nope, just half orc.
Yeah,
that's it. It's just that's all it is. So. And there's a percentage that will just come out half orc. There you go. That's all you got.
Yeah.
These guys seem to just be the 1 out of every 1,000 is an Orog and is just beefy and is ready to protect. And I feel like they're more concerned with the longevity of the tribe. So while everyone else is making aggressive battle plans, they're making defensive plans.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times orcs, they move into an area that they raid, they kill everybody, they take over, they build a small stronghold, they take it over for a little while, and then they move on to the next thing. Who's building that stuff? Who is putting in the defenses? It's the orcs, but they're being led by the Orog saying, no, put that over there. Put this over here. I want to watch over here. And they're going to be concerned about, are the younglings safe?
Yeah.
Right? And that's really interesting because it's different than your standard orc.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Cool.
Who's next? Me, I guess. I think, just touching on there, Adam, where you said talking about Orogs being a little bit different, that's kind of the direction I wanted to go as well. Because orcs is a huge race within D&D, typically are often all the same. Are only interested in the same thing. They have the same thing. Looking at, procreating, expanding territory. They have the same motivations. But humans are also different. Like we are in the real world here, we're different in Europe compared to America, compared to Asia. For going through history, we've had different motivations, different cultures, things like that. And I think in my game, that is something that I would want to touch on more, about how the bands are very different, about how they have different motivations. They'll be more aggressive towards different types of people. But when it comes to combat, tactically, they're not the most intelligent creatures, but they are battle seasoned and they understand how each other fights, how the different races fight, what they lean towards.
Yeah, I would say you're absolutely right. They're going to know how to use a catapult. They're going to figure it out. But they're never going to make their own.
But they also know the patterns or the habits of the standard strategies that wood elves will use in their home compared to humans on the plains. And so I feel like it is okay to be very tactical and strategic with orcs as a DM, even though they're not very intelligent. For example, orcs would know to cause chaos, to use their overwhelming numbers, to use their momentum. They would know that the spellcaster is the dangerous one, so they should move the tanks, draw the tanks away, and then use their movement to get away from the tanks and cause damage to the spellcasters, disrupting, using their chaotic ways.
You're absolutely right. You just said they would have different tactics for different things. So when they see the wood elves, you know that they're picking up giant logs and walking forward, using them as shields, so they can drop them or use them as battering rams, right? But they wouldn't bother with that with dwarves, because dwarves aren't shooting arrows.
Exactly. But that, again, going back to exploration and storytelling, can all become part of that. You're saying picking up giant logs, using them as shields. That's something interesting and different. Or maybe you observe orcs using different tactics in different areas. So that's how I would use them as the DM, just to flip it how I would... my tactics as a player is you need to limit their movement. I would say you need to corral them to use your AoE thing. So they're trying to move, they're trying to draw you. So you need to be aware of corralling them, limiting their movement, trying to get them into one place so you can cause as much damage to as many of them as you can, knowing they're kind of squishy if you do have spellcasters. I would say avoid fighting them in the dark. Orcs would inherently know that they have an advantage in the dark because they have dark vision over humans. Why are orcs not fighting more in the dark? It makes absolute sense. So taking advantage.
Nighttime raiding parties.
Yep.
Just do it.
Absolutely. Taking advantage of low intelligence and wisdom saves as well. Yes, that sounds kind of meta, but the humans and the elves in the world know that they're not that smart. They would use that kind of magic.
Yeah.
So as a player, it makes perfect sense to use those types of strategies. And if you're lower level and you're not sure what your characters would do against orcs, it's perfectly reasonable to ask the DM, what do I know about orcs? And then you do your rolls from there.
All right, I have two questions for you. Two things. I'm like, okay, you've sparked my inspiration on this, and
Sure.
I'm like, all right, would you include this? I'm going to let Dan finish coughing or whatever he's doing in the corner. Okay.
Can you die quietly, please? I'm trying to speak to the internet. You rude man.
The internet does not know just how much coughing of mine I remove weekly from this. Like I have like 4 or 5 coughing fits per episode, and editing this has started to concern me a little bit.
You need to go to the doctor.
I've
I've
been needing to go to the doctor for a
the
variety of reasons, so we'll just move on from that.
Okay, so two things. One, when a war chief or an Orog or whoever's leading a raiding party, when they die or are removed from the battlefield for whatever reason, do your other orcs change tactics when they no longer have a leader?
They are a shamanistic group. Sorry to just interrupt.
That's all right, go for it.
They're a shamanistic group. They're a highly spiritual group. They are if you drop the head of an orc raiding party, they are doing everything in their party in their power to grab that body and bring it back and retreat. They're not leaving their dead behind. They're wanting to, they might be that whole death in battle is an honorable death. That's going to be an aspect to it as well. But if it's this important figure for their tribe, they're going to try to grab him and run.
Well, that's the other interesting thing about their religion is that when they die, they believe that their souls, all of them, they go to one of the lower planes where they join Grumpsh's infinite battle across the plains. So when you die, you then go to war for the rest of eternity, and that's a great honor.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what they look forward to.
So, also, that speaks to their motivations within battle.
They're going to be a little bit more
So
kamikaze.
now you have a race of creatures who are not afraid of death. So now you're fighting an enemy who is not afraid to die. And that changes everything, especially when they're chaotic and they move quickly and they move in hordes.
They very much, they're superstitious so that they understand that there's a right and a wrong way to do things in the eyes of their gods.
Yeah.
However, dying in the name of their gods is not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
And so when they die, I'm assuming it's more about doing funeral rites than
Yeah,
anything
no,
else,
yeah, 100%.
right?
Like, they are okay with the death. They just want to properly inter, right? Like, it's let's set up the pyre and have our proper funeral rites for things.
Okay, so let me ask you the other question. Intimidation is a big factor with orcs, right?
Yep.
And so we're talking about they should be attacking at night and the benefit of surprise and all this. Do you think that they're sitting there banging on war drums? Do you think they're screaming out of the darkness and roaring? Like, there's a bunch of humans sitting around a campfire, and all of a sudden you hear thump, 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 and then 15 orcs just appear out of nowhere screaming. Is that a tactic?
Okay, again, they know what enemy they're fighting. If you were going into a village, which is protected by basic town guard that are probably kind of lazy, and it has a lot of elderly, women, children, that kind of thing, they would maybe do that to cause fear and panic, because that makes their life easier. But they're probably not going to do that against very
Like
disciplined elven soldiers who are like, oh, they're making noise. Like they know it's not going to work.
Yeah. All right.
I'm reminded of the scene in Game of Thrones where the siege of Casterly Rock.
Yeah.
Like where Jaime and Bronn are standing there, and you hear the screamers from the horizon, and there's like
The
a
Dothraki
good
are coming.
minute of just hearing the screaming and everyone going, this is not going to go well.
See, that screams gnolls to me more than orcs, right? When you hear the
Oh, the
shivering
hyena
laughing,
yeah,
yeah.
right, and the screaming, and even war drums could be gnolls.
Yeah.
Whereas I figure that with orcs, it's done on purpose. It's a tactic.
Yeah.
Whereas with hyenas, it's a cacophony of gnolls.
Yeah.
and gnolls.
Yeah, that's kind of how they communicate as well. Yeah.
Yep. For a player, what I would recommend is if you are in a campaign where there's a lot of orcs and there's a lot of presence of orcs, use the superstitions and the religion against them. You are going to be finding out some way to kind of draw and encourage that natural infighting that orcs have amongst themselves. and use that to make your encounters easier. Use that to kind of pit your orcs against each other, because they're going to be so numerous. The best way to take them out is to
divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So really pursue that. Find out what these little idiosyncrasies are between the tribes and exploit them. And that's going to be the best push you have. Don't underestimate an orc. Never underestimate an orc. They're not just the big dumb meathead. They will think tactically, as we've discussed, and come back at you. So that's what I got. Anything else we want to talk to on that point there, boys?
You mentioned some of the tactics, Terry, and I want to point out that one of the strongest things about an orc is the ability to move, and then also move as a bonus action.
Yeah.
They can dash like a rogue, right? So the idea is that they can still get their attacks in, which means they are coming across that battlefield fast. So when you're a player, Dan, you're sitting there, how do you get up against orcs? You need to throw some difficult terrain down real quick, and that's going to lower their effectiveness, especially if some of them fail and some of them don't. They're saves, and so you're only dealing with 2 or 3 at a time.
Yeah.
When you get surrounded by a horde, that's when this stuff gets scary, especially in 5th ed, where the math is flat and a CR3 monster can do as much damage as a CR18 in some circumstances.
Yeah.
So it can be pretty scary, especially with the action economy.
That's what I was saying about tactics with regards to draw the tanks to you as a DM, try and pull them away from the spellcasters, bait them. Players get excited, they want to do things, they see the enemy, they go in, paladin, barbarian, fighter all come forwards. They get 1 reaction each, but you've got 10, 12, 15 orcs that now charge the spellcaster. By the way, they're aggressive, so they can move their full movement on a bonus action. So they're getting there first. Maybe 2 or 3 of them get hit. Maybe 2 or 3 of them die. But that horde mentality, that action economy is now surrounding your spellcaster.
So yeah, that's fantastic. That's why I would do it. I mean, okay, so hold on. As you're sitting here going, I'm going to make a player that is going to be built to wipe out an orc. What is the character? What class? What subclass? For a moment, are you looking at to say, you know what, I was going to do maximum damage against an orc? We can do spellcasters, right? Area of effect.
Spellcaster
Fireballs are going to work real well.
Yeah, ranges with favorite enemy. I mean, there's ways you can cater specifically to one type of enemy.
Well, I like to think go fire with fire. Like, you're up against orcs, roll that barbarian, my friend.
Yeah. Of course, that's your answer. No one is surprised that is your answer.
Well, no, they're going to get up in your face. That's what you want as a barbarian. Like, play towards that strength a bit and counter it with your own thing. Be a monk.
I would sooner go champion fighter.
Or well, of course you would.
Yeah.
But, like, if you
go
a monk...
I was thinking a monk or a rogue, because you get that movement bonus as well.
Yeah,
monk,
and then can you just imagine, like, a monk walking up and flicking an orc in the middle of the forehead and stunning them? Like, it's this great way to fight against that mobility, is just remove the movement.
The other thing, too, is that orcs are one of the handful of common creatures that you think of with D&D that only have 1 attack around. A lot of the beefier kinds of orcs get multi-attack, but your standard orc only gets 1. So when you walk in with your monk, you're able to go toe-to-toe with this thing. You're able to catch up. You're able to hit more often. And you're able to do pretty comparable damage.
Yeah, and if you want the laughs, pull their weapon away from them and watch an orc suffer.
But I would say that a paladin's not something I'm looking forward to with orcs. You're soaking up the attacks, but especially low level 4 and below, you're just an orc on the field with better AC.
Yeah,
right. You're just trading blow for blow. Is there anything else that you think is weak?
Good AC only lasts so long when you're going against a mob. It's just math. Yeah, okay. First
a low
hit,
level
second,
warlock.
Third.
Yeah, the
just going to get
D6 that a
destroyed.
sorcerer gets is in trouble, right? Like, so your low-level players that are going up, because it's a low-level monster, all the mobs are, you got to watch out for some of them, like the paladin. Anything else that's particularly weak? I think a bard's in trouble.
I think a glamour bard is particularly not.
When you're going up against their saves, it depends.
Because a glamour bard goes there and just, like, enthralls them all, or enthralls a large section of them.
Well, do you have that ability at level 2?
You have it at level 3.
Well, okay, so again,
well, not like, but that's when you are a glamour bard and not just a bard.
Right. So
I think, I mean, if I sat down and thought about it tactically, you can always find a way to make something work. But I think rogues are probably not going to be great. They're squishy. Yeah, they have their sneak attack.
And there's a lot of open
They
field
only
tactics.
get 1 attack. They're squishy.
But everything's only going to have one attack, and everything has a D8 except for 4.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So,
you're right.
they're about as squishy as your cleric at level 2.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because you haven't had your con modifier start to stack over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So, like, these guys are a real problem for low-level parties, and that's what we're going to see for a lot of mobs.
Yeah, I tend to run orcs as a DM. I tend to run them at, like, when the party's closer to that level 4 to 8 level, and when they're the 1 to 3, they're fighting goblins and kobolds. Like, I'm not throwing... I'm throwing CR quarters at a party that's below 3rd level, not a CR half. Or especially not a Horde of CR half. Especially orcs themselves, because there's never one orc. There's always 6.
Until he's the last one standing.
Until he's the last one standing, and then... I mean, still watch out, he's still a threat, but, like, you never come into an encounter of orcs where it's just one orc. If it is one orc, and that's the start of the encounter... you are in for a world of hurt because you're probably going to come up against one of these ones that is the chosen of these deities that have these variety of issues. Like, again, we'll talk about them in a later episode, but like orcs themselves are just this fantastic blend that you could use where 9 times out of 10, they're going to be a army of them that you have to fight. So if we're all done on this one, I just want to do a quick shout out to my boy, Cameron at D&D Coalition. That's dnd.coalition. He reached out to me a few weeks ago. We had a good talk about life and lovely red beardedness and all of these other things.
Adam?
No.
Adam?
That's my porn name.
The lovely red beardedness.
Goddamn
Your
right.
lovely red beardedness? Your lovely red beardedness?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm super sexy single mom. We've been talking for weeks.
Dan, we'll see you later. Terry and I have got a hotel to get to.
So thanks for using my shout out to D&D Coalition to bring that little revelation out. But
that is up.
That was not little.
Anyway, so Cameron's a great dude. He is trying to really encourage the D&D community and bring us all together, and all of us content creators, whether we be artists or Etsy stores or live plays or whatever we are doing here.
We're hooking up, apparently.
Well, 2 of the 3 of us. I mean, what am I supposed to do?
You
Watch?
play your cards right. There may be a little something.
Anyway, so Cameron, D&D Coalition, follow him on Instagram. Send him some love. He's a great guy. Now, gentlemen, we've talked about their culture. We've talked about how they run in the field. Now, how a party will see them and be able to fight them, and DM tactics to throw them at your party. You got something interesting, an encounter that you could put together that really uses orcs in all of their facets in a very unique and interesting way. So grab your dice. Let's do it.
A nat 20.
Nicely
What
done.
did I do? I still didn't win, did I?
No, I got last.
I don't even want to check anymore. Weber.
So, gentlemen.
So, Adam, what you got for us?
All right. So, the very first thing that I want to talk about is, as far as an encounter goes, you should be looking at orcs not as a one-off encounter, but as a constant threat, in my opinion, that's going to last you multiple levels. When someone steals, when the orcs have come in and they've stolen all of the nuns out of the nunnery, and you're like, uh-oh, have to go get them nuns back. You need to go chase them down across the plains. Hold on. It should not be then you travel overnight and you find them and you rescue them all. They're taking and they're running, right? Whatever it is that they've stolen, whether it's a magic item or it's a hostage, whatever it is, it should be a pain in the ass to go get them back. And getting in is half the problem. Then you got to get out.
Yeah.
Right? And so you should start thinking about orcs like with the different tactics as far as you have scouts and then you have sentries and then you have raiding parties. Mm-hmm. And now you're in orc territory. And so there are outposts and there are there's a little group of ogres that the orcs will call on for help in large skirmishes, and you just happen to come upon this den of ogres. And it should be getting progressively worse and scarier as you go, because you're also leveling, right? And you're getting more and more experience with the orcs. Maybe you're trying to blend in with them, or you're going under cover of night, whatever it is. When you get your thing, they need to be blowing horns because you got your MacGuffin and they know you're there and they're bringing the horde. Yeah. And now it's a chase. Now you're getting out of there and you're not fighting the three little orcs. You're going up against the scary ones out of Volos, or the Ogrelons, which are the half ogres, or they've got Tanaruks as well, which we didn't talk about. They're half orc, half demon. They're freaking frightening. They're like absolutely terrifying, and I absolutely love them because they're beyond anything that you would think is normal for orcs, and you need to be running into these things. If they're so shamanistic and superstitious, then all of a sudden they should be praying to raise one of these things to get revenge and get their shit back, right? This is how I'd be using orcs. It would be across the campaign. Look at it.
Is that it right there?
That's it.
Oh, that's terrifying.
That thing is a monster. It
looks like a barb devil mixed with a minotaur mixed with an orc.
But he's demonic and he's magic resistant, and he's got like unbridled fury as a reaction.
What?
Yeah, which in response to being hit by melee attack, he can make a melee attack with advantage against the attacker.
So he's resistant to magic, but he hits you back if you hit him melee.
Yeah, and he's got 10d8 plus 50 hit points.
Okay.
This guy's going to just, suddenly your level 5 party is in real trouble. Especially when they're being chased and this thing pops up in front of them.
Yeah.
Right? This is what we should be talking about when we're talking about orcs. It's not just 3 orcs ran into the tavern and killed the barkeep and ran away. Yeah, you can use them that way, but there is a greater overall picture that we could be using here.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
Terry?
For me, well, you went combat style encounter.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change. I'll go more social style encounter. Now, you guys know that I like a good bit of heartache in my game. I like to get emotionally beaten up and cry into my pillow after the D&D game's over. And
often in the middle of the D&D game.
Often,
as well.
often. I want to explore the idea of the cultural differences again and how the players in the game and the humans and the elves and the dwarves all think that they know what orcs are like. I like the idea of a social encounter where you maybe find yourself, for whatever reason, you have to go and reason with an orc war chief or something. Find yourself in their encampment. And you start to see, first of all, cultural parallels, because orcs like to expand their territory. So do humans, you might have noticed, in the world. They blindly follow gods.
No, that's specifically the British you're thinking of, Terry.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, sorry. When I said humans, I meant British. Blindly following gods. And we also, both sides have a distrust of what is different. So I want to see those parallels in a social encounter. Imagine going through a war camp and are the orc children scared of you? You're different. What are their parents telling you about them? What did they remember about the last time the elves came and killed them all, or killed their grandparents? What does it look like? How do the orcs act when they're tending to their wounded? Are they crying because their family was hurt or whatever in the last battle? And I like to play on emotions in games, so I want to see that so that players don't just think of them as mindless beasts that just come in. That you're touching on those culturals and those emotions.
What is the name of this kid's movie? It came out like 10, 12 years ago. You guys probably won't know this. The internet will be like, oh, it's this. Hit us with the comments when you figure this out. It's called like Planet 3 or it's something like that, where it is a human that ends up going to Mars, and in the
cartoon?
Yeah, it's animated.
It's
like
Planet 51, as in Area 51.
Is that what it is?
Oh, okay.
And he runs around, and it's a human, and it's like the Martian society, and the kids are terrified of him, and the government's like, oh my god, it's an alien, right? And so it flips the whole thing on its head.
Exactly.
That's what you're talking about
right.
here, right?
So now next time you come into what may potentially be a combat encounter, do you have empathy or sympathy for these orcs now? Or are you looking at it a little bit differently? When you hear the DM say, they say something in Orcish, what are they saying? Is the war chief saying, I don't want to do this, but we have to feed the kids? Something like that. Touch on their emotions. Hurt them.
One of my favorite first social encounters that I ever did was after we killed the orcs, we found the orc babies in a dry riverbed. What do? you got orc babies.
Yes.
And we've just murder hoboed our way through the last 5 or 6 sessions because we're new players. And now it's like, do you murder the babies? And everyone like looked at each other, and it split the party.
Yeah.
People were like, yeah, man, they're orcs. And other people were like, no, man, they're babies.
That's D&D. That's a
That's
puzzle.
what you're talking about.
That's a
right?
puzzle. You know, we talk about interesting puzzles. There's your puzzle. Go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you kill the babies?
Yeah, and it's also kind of a guide for your. It's a really good way to bring that inter-party discussion that's finally needing to have done. If you've been murder hoboing your way through 5 levels, all of a sudden you're got this actually like humanizing moral decision to throw at your party. It's one of my favorite moments in any sort of new D&D. I have a lot of groups that I start to encourage new people to play. And I'll throw in one of these little like moral questions at them, and the party just stops dead, and everyone looks at each other and goes, "Oh, what? This is what does it? This can happen in this game. It's not just killing orcs and dragons and stuff."
Yeah, okay, but you know, 3 of the 4 people around the table are freaking out, and then you have your tiefling necromancer that just picks up a baby and takes a bite.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
And that is also D&D.
and that's the point.
but you as a DM should be taking notes on how your players are reacting.
That's what I was gonna say.
At that
That's
point, you
also-
go, "Okay, Steven, we need to have a discussion
But that's a
later."
tool for you as a DM to know how you're going to maneuver your campaign later on, to know how people are going to react to things by putting those challenges, those adversities in front of them. It just better prepares you later on for the game.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a tool.
So for me,
Speaking of tools.
Yeah.
speaking of tools, yay, thanks, Adam. So Adam, you had your combat encounter. Terry, you had your social one. I actually planned a more exploration-focused one. I mentioned how they're tribal. You've mentioned how they'll grab the stuff and run. So have a series of sessions where your party is chasing down this orc tribe from its old campsite, from one to another, through the woods.
Can I just, as a caveat here, say, don't just rely on your ranger with survival checks.
No.
There's
Actually,
got to be other ways to do this.
Use skill challenges. Use orienteering skills. Like you and I were in Boy Scouts when, and you were a soldier. Like you are trained to look for signs in the woods of like.
But that's a
arrows
survival
and stuff
check.
like-
That is a survival check over and over again.
It's yes, but you could also do other things with that. You could have
Look, orcs can be tortured if you get one,
Yeah.
right? Or at least interrogated.
Yeah, and then you can heal them and do it again.
you
do
scare
yeah,
me.
You know what?
You terrify
What?
me.
I
That's
don't think
legit.
we're going to the motel with you after
That's
this.
a legit.
No, it's just gonna be me and Adam, and we're just gonna
legit
cuddle.
tech.
That's
you guys
it.
don't do that.
But yeah, so I would have the party chase down the orcs. Have like orc style traps, not like normal kobold, like a pit with whatnot in it, but like have logs swinging at the party. Like they know they're being pursued.
That's still kobolds to me.
But orcs are smart enough to set traps along the way as well if they know that they're being tracked. Have parties try to harry and slow the party down so that the main body of this could get away.
Yeah, I was going to say, an orc trap to me is the orcs waiting for you to pass through them on a narrow road, and they're popping up behind boulders and attacking from both sides.
Use the environment.
Right, like they're not so much building traps as we are the trap.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's
In terms of like later game with orcs, like we've said that they kind of get to maybe top end of like tier 3, or sorry, bottom end of tier 3, top end of tier 2.
Yep.
How do you progress them further? How are they a threat to your level 18 party?
Oh, you can do anything with environment. So
Yeah.
fighting orcs on a forest path or on an open plain is very different to fighting orcs when your motivation on both sides is survival on the edge of a mountain in the middle of a snowstorm in avalanche season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And see, whenever I think of use your environment, I always go to edge of a volcano. Okay, it doesn't matter who you are. If these things have limbs, can grapple, and are zealots, you are going in the lava.
Yep.
That's it. It doesn't matter what your AC is. It matters now on your dice, right? And that's damn frightening. And that's the flat math of 5th Ed that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
The other way that I keep them is to keep them scary at high levels is I would use the old trick from 4th Ed and make them minions. Now, I don't know if we've ever spoken about this on the podcast, but I run this every once in a while in my own campaign. I don't know if you guys have picked this up yet. A minion is simply the exact same creature, but you are so proficient at killing them, they should pose no real threat, so they only have a single hit point. So they're still going to run forward, and they're going to hit you with their multi-attack. They're still going to get their +8 to hit, or whatever it is that this creature has. But I've dropped 15 of them now, and this is one-hit kills. Can you kill them faster than they can hit you? And this is a horde. This is the mob, right? That they are running at you. And I don't care if you're level 18. If you are surrounded on all 8 sides, you are you're
in trouble. Yeah.
You're in trouble. And the only thing I need to do to beef them up is give them multi-attack, right? And now that's 16 hits coming at you. Your AC may be 20. I will hit you 3 times, and I'm still doing a 1d12. Sure, I'm chipping away at your 130 hit points, but if I do this time after time after time, and everyone that you knock down, another one steps forward and takes its place, you're in trouble, right? And so this is where you've got to start thinking about your reverse gravity spells, right? Or your earthquake, your meteors, right? This is where your big level 7, 8 spells are going to come into play to wipe a battlefield. As much as you want to use it on the Death Tyrant, and that's going to be satisfying, nothing makes a wizard happier than wiping a battlefield clean.
Oh, well, I'm playing like a walking ballista of a gnome right now in the other campaign, and the idea of just being able to just I unload on this incoming wave and just see things die as I like get my 5 attacks around.
Fighters are fun for that.
Yeah. Like that is a itch I like to scratch.
But sorry, it's just. Using the minion thing from 4th Ed is so easy to do.
Yeah.
And it changes everything. And you can still have your boss monster with 160 hit points over there and your spellcasters over there. But these guys are filling in the blanks. They're rounding out the battle. And they're keeping things deadly without actually being deadly. It's only deadly if your players get dumb.
Yep. Also, there are more ways to hurt people than just... More ways to hurt I'm a sociopath, by the way. More ways to hurt your players than just killing them. So you guys can be, players can be going along in their convoy with their party. Those orcs don't necessarily need to try and fight that level 15 party of people, but I might have 12 orcs that all throw javelins at that level 3 Kenku 9-year-old child.
Yeah.
And that will hurt them.
Yep. Or even simpler than that, if they don't have snaps with them, we have a Kenku named Snaps.
Yeah.
But
we love him.
Yeah. If they don't have that character with them, I bet they've got an emotional connection to mounts.
Yep.
Right. And orcs
Familiars.
steal and raid. Right. So it should be kill the mounts, steal the stuff, run.
Yep.
Right. Oh, I'm not wearing my armor because I'm asleep, which means I'm just going to fight them without my armor. My AC is only going to be 14. And they got your armor, bud.
And your orcs are attacking at night because they're smart enough to know that they have dark vision, and you're human who's now not wearing armor.
Or even they have drawn you out of the city, and now they're sneaking into this walled compound, and they are assassinating people that are important to you that you think are safe.
Yes. So the point being, what we're trying to make is that just because you got past a certain level doesn't mean orcs don't exist in the world anymore, unless you killed them all like we did in ours. That they're still there, and they can still cause havoc, and they can still hurt you in different ways. Yeah.
Cool. So if we are all done, what are we takeaways?
I got one final thought on this, just as a kind of piece of trivia for everybody. The original 1st edition orcs looked like pigmen.
Yeah.
They had hog faces with like the pig snout, and that still kind of gets held over, where they will be described as having scrunched, piggish, boorish features with the tusks coming up from the lower jaw and whatnot. They're just teeth, but they're tusks. Let's be honest here. It's interesting that still in the flavor in 5th edition, it says they will ally with ogres and ogrelons and wereboars. Specifically, it says wereboars, which is interesting to me that there's still that throwback to their piggish origins.
Yeah.
So
I guess,
I thought that would be, if you're going to have orcs that are going to ride things and you want to mix it up from your wargs, have them ride dire boars.
Yep.
Right? Have them raise pigs. Like, I'd throw a pig flavor on it the same way there's a hyena flavor on gnolls. That's just if you wanted to give your experienced players something different.
Yeah, boar kind of flavor. I like the idea, of doing, because I know I mentioned this before, we talk about dreamscapes and like, and maybe even like a one shot or something you could do it from the point of view of the orcs. You're trying to defend your own encampment, and in your encampment there's children, there's pregnant women, there's elderly, and give them a real emotional connection.
Can you stop giving him ideas?
No, hold on. No, this is cool because then it's like the shadow that moves between tents, which is just the rogue, right? But he hits you, and when he hits you, you bleed and die, right? Like, can you imagine the superstitious side of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I when I play orcs, when I run orcs, I really lean heavily into the superstitious. Like, there's always that one old matronly like shaman character who, when she walks, you could hear the bones rattling. Right, like that.
Are those the
character.
gnome bones that she's wearing?
Oh, no, gnome bone. They're everything bones, and there's ears and stuff hanging from their necks as well. Like these things, and she is that diviner character. She's like borderline hag kind character who is the orcs fear, but also respect her deeply.
Sounds
and, like,
sexy.
Yeah, I would use that as often as possible and lean so heavily into that. That's how I would up the challenge rating of them as well. Is if you got a character who's that in tune with some sort of deific or almost abyssal power, like where hags get the power from, or like,
well, hags have a weird magic.
They have a weird magic, but if you play that and infuse that into your orc matrons, you could go miles with this tribal feel with them. It's absolutely powerful and fantastic, and you could really play into the horror of the game.
Yeah.
Horror
My
of the
favorite part.
game.
Yeah, I've noticed you're doing that a little bit better now.
I've learned my lesson. I have to.
Though. Emotionally paying for it. Emotionally paying for it. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I also like the idea of having a shaman involved with the orcs that can heal them. Shaman.
Oh.
That can heal them up, right? Because these guys are, they're not real meaty. They got 15 hit points. But if you got to knock that 15 down over and over and over again, that's a problem, right? Yeah. So that's another way of just making your encounter. You don't want to just last longer, but suddenly that area of effect spell, their only level 3 fireball has been blown. And like, okay, we did it. And then they stand back up, right?
Yeah. Well, half-orcs get that orc ferocity thing. It comes from something, right? Or tenacity. That's what it is. Orcish tenacity, where if you hit 0 hit points, you're getting back up. Orcs have that too. So, anyways, that has been our first feature on a horde mob mentality of monster. I have been Dan. You have been Adam. You have been Terry.
Whoa! I thought I was Terry.
No, sorry.
Pip cheerio. Did I do it?
Sexy Red Dead Redemption or whatever.
Sexy Red Redemption. I'm changing my porn name.
Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Any last little things? Takeaways? No?
Yeah. No?
Okay. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been It's a Mimic. Let's hit that outro music.
Thank you for listening to It's a Mimic. Check us out online at itsamimic.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have questions you would like answered by the guys on the show? Send them an email to itsamimic@gmail.com. Tune in every Tuesday for more.
Hello world, Dan and Adam have left. It's your Uncle Terry here. Crack open that bottle of whiskey that your dad hides in the back of the cupboard. And later on when we're finished, you're going to top it up with water. I need you to take a match and I'm going to teach you how to reseal the seal so that nobody knows you did it. Oh, they're back.
Teaching life lessons, Terry?
I don't know what just happened, but I'm frightened of it.